This is The Long Road to Publishing, the podcast where we hear from authors who have traveled a long and bumpy road to publishing their books. Whether you're just starting out on your own writing and publishing journey, or if you're all too aware of the many possible detours along the way, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Eva Langston, author, writing instructor, and creator of Eva's newsletter for writers on Substack. Thank you so much for coming along on the ride. It was such a pleasure to talk to Ruth Knafo Setton about the long and bumpy road to publishing her award-winning novel, Zig Zag Girl, which is also an award-winning TV pilot. So we definitely discuss Ruth's experience with screenwriting as well. It's a wonderful episode. Ruth has some really great advice and a writing exercise that personally I'm really excited to try. Towards the end of the episode, I mention a Substack article by Vicki Weber, What Nobody's Telling Querying Writers About What's Happening to Publishing Right Now. So I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes, along with links to a few of the other things we mention. And also at the very end of the episode, I ask Ruth about her special good luck charm that she wears for book events. So if you want to see what we're talking about, be sure to follow me, Eva Langston, on Instagram or Substack. Those are the two places where I usually post a few video clips of each episode. And I'm thinking about posting those on YouTube as well. So that's where you can see Ruth's fabulous good luck charm that she showed me during this interview. I'm sure I don't have to remind you to subscribe to the podcast and share on social media, but this is your quick reminder just in case. And now on with the show. Zig Zag Girl is about a female magician, and Ruth seems really good at following creative intuition to create magic on the page. So I'm calling this episode Following the Magic in Novels and Screenplays. Born in Morocco and raised on tales of wonder, Ruth Knafo Setton is the author of the novels The Road to Fez and Zig Zag Girl, which is a finalist for the International Thriller Writers Award for Best Standalone Book of the Year. Zig Zag Girl also won grand prize in the ScreenCraft Cinematic Book Competition and first place in the Daphne du Maurier Awards. Her TV pilot for Zig Zag Girl won first prize at the LA Crime and Horror Film Festival, and her screenplays have been recognized by Austin Film Festival, Sundance, and Cinestory. An NEA fellow, she has taught creative writing at Lehigh University and with Semester at Sea. So, Ruth, welcome to The Long Road to Publishing.
Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. I remember we met in September at BoucherCon, and you were telling me some bits and pieces of your story, and it was just so crazy that I knew I had to have you on the show. But before we get into the whole journey, Zig Zag Girl just came out in the US in March, correct? Oh, and actually, I want to just read from, I think this is from your website. Zig Zag Girl is a noir-tinged feminist thriller set in Atlantic City's underworld, like The Prestige meets Knives Out. So I kind of feel like maybe that's all we need to know, but do you want to give us just a quick little elevator pitch to entice us even more?
Well, it's a story of murder, magic, and mystery set in Atlantic City and the Pine Barrens. It features a brilliant young female magician who finds her friend's body in a sawing box on stage in a haunted theater. And she goes to solve the mystery to find out who murdered her friend. And along the way, discovers secrets that lead back to her own past and finds herself falling for the prime suspect in the murder investigation.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like it has everything, everything I could ever want in a novel. So, yes, I definitely need to read this. Well, so here's where you are now. This book has just come out. Let's go back in time to, I always like to ask people, and for you, I'm not sure because I know you write books, but you also write screenplays. So you'll have to let us know which came first. But when do you feel like you got serious about writing?
Well, I'll tell you, my very first diary I received when I was 9 years old. The first sentence on the first page that I wrote was, I want to be a writer. I knew since I was 9 years old that I would be. It didn't matter that for years I didn't write. I knew I was going to be a writer one day. It was
Yeah.
just in me. I lived like a writer. I looked around the world and I found mysteries and told stories all the time. But really seriously was when I was pregnant with my first child. I was in Houston studying for my doctorate and I had to write my dissertation, but I kept getting distracted. I was hugely pregnant. It was a hot summer. And I started thinking, I want to tell this, I knew it was going to be a boy. I want to share my family heritage with him. I want to have something to show him. I was born in Morocco.
Hmm.
And I came to the States as a little girl, but I'm a Sephardic Jew, and we were there since 1492, since the Spanish Inquisition. And there were so many secrets and whispers and untold half-told stories, put it that way, about my
Hmm.
family. I thought I wanted to have something to give him, a legacy sort of, but I don't know enough about my family. I don't know anything about the past. So instead of doing the research for my dissertation,
And what were you getting your PhD in? Can I
yeah,
ask?
sure. It was in literature, in English lit.
Okay, okay.
And I was supposed to be writing, my dissertation was going to be on Isaac Bashevis Singer. And I mean, I love his writing. It was really, it was great, but I couldn't focus. I just kept on going. And because this is before the internet where I could Google things and stuff, I used interlibrary loan. I was at Rice University in Houston.
Hmm.
I used their, they must have wondered. I was ordering the most, esoteric, mysterious books you could only find in a library in Paris or one in Madrid. And they would send me these books and I would sit and read about the Moroccan Jews, the past, my family's history. And a story started coming out of this. It ended up being the novel The Road to Fez. But that's where I remember I felt I had a mission. I was serious about this. And it started with that.
You felt this need to kind of dig into your family history, but when you wrote about it, it came out as a novel. It came out in a fictional world.
Yeah, I think that's my way of translating the world. I write creative nonfiction. I write essays a lot, but my way of interpreting the world is story. I'm always telling stories, and it always has to have some kind of mystery and some sort of wonder and some sort of love in it.
Mm.
And in
Hmm.
Road to Fez, there's a taboo love, two forbidden loves, and history though there is some solid foundation because by then I learned not just about my family, but about just that whole era, and it's a vanished world now. To my surprise, this is like a little footnote that I started learning in the past couple of years. Road to Fez is being taught in universities in Morocco, where,
Really?
yes, and I've been contacted by students at the universities in Rabat and Casablanca who want to, or who have sent me papers they've written about it. They've studied the book because the thing is, most of the Jews are gone. They left,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
Europe, Israel, America. And it's almost like I have even though it's a love story and it's a coming of age story, it also gives a picture of a certain people and a time and a place, and they would like to publish it there in an Arab translation, which I was very excited by. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so then my next question is you wrote this The Road to Fez, and then what happened with that? Did you try kind of right away to get it published?
Yes, but I was on my own. I was living in Houston, and by then I had two babies. I know you have
Yeah.
kids too, and you know what I know, you know. So, and I had no contacts, no connections. I had no writer friends. I didn't know where to go. I just started sending letters. Sometimes I would find books. I'd write directly to editors first.
Hmm.
And I get responses, but usually I remember one, I mean, a really cruel and weird one saying, you write very well. Next time, try writing about the real Jews.
Yikes.
Because nobody knew anything about Jews from Morocco, from Africa, because we were North Africa. They didn't know
Hmm.
anything about this world. I started, and I got discouraged, of course, after getting all these rejections. And I didn't even realize I should get an agent. This was still, and here's another like little turning point. I applied to University of Houston for an MFA. They had started an MFA program and Rice for a PhD. And I got a full fellow scholarship to both. And I had to choose. And I remember thinking and talking to my dad and my husband and everything and MFA, well, they would tell me, well, you're going to keep writing. You're never going to stop writing. Realistically, pragmatically, I chose Rice to get the PhD, but later I realized that what I had lost was a community,
Mm-hmm.
because a network of other
Mm-hmm.
writers. And that was very hard won through the years. I have my circle of people now, but that took years to figure out. And I often thought about that. What would have happened? Maybe the journey would have been quicker because I would have had some connections and contacts. I don't know. So I was sending out letters. Nothing much happened. So I started writing a book that I thought, well, nobody wants to read a book about Morocco. I started a novel I thought, I'm in Texas. I'm going to write an American novel. I'm going to write about like what's the most American thing. So I thought about this guy named Old Sam. This is the most absurd thing. I put him in a little town in Texas. He was a rancher. He had a horse. I knew nothing about any of this. We'd driven through a little town called Rosario once, so I set it in Rosario. And I had this old Sam, an American, like Texas guy, as American as it could be. And I thought this is going to be my way in. And around chapter 3, and I really got fond of him, but around chapter 3, these people moved next to his ranch and they started playing music and cooking. And it was like they were making couscous and playing French music. And I realized, oh my God, the Moroccans came to town. They messed up the whole, what are you doing? You don't belong in this book. I tried to get rid of them. They'd come back. I started, I think, 3 or 4 novels. Each time by chapter 3, the Moroccans would move to town. So I thought, okay, you're trying to tell me something. I have to tell this story. I went back to Road to Fez and I edited it and started fixing it up. And by then I was starting to meet more people. I had published a few stories. I was writing book reviews for the Houston Chronicle. So things were in a really slow, windy kind of way. But eventually I got an agent. And that came through a writer I met at a writer's colony at VCCA.
Oh, okay.
And I gave a reading there one night from Road to Fez. And she said, I think my agent would really love this story. Send it to her. And she did. Wonder of wonders. It was such a lovely moment. It's such a generous act. And so I had an agent and we sold the book. We got 4 offers, which was pretty nice. And it went with Counterpoint Press. That was really like a good feeling.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, where'd you go from there? Were you like, okay, I'm a novelist, I'm going to write more books, or?
I'm trying to remember what happened right. Well, I started a second novel. And this one was about an immigrant family because The Road to Fez is about a coming of age of a young Moroccan Jewish American woman. After her mother's death, she goes back to Morocco to meet the family. And this time I thought, I'm going to write about an immigrant family in America. And
Hmm.
that novel became like oh my God, what a project. I called it Darktown Blues. And it was about a family and it had 4 points of view. And it was one of those big baggy monsters, that took
Hmm.
years to write, tons of research, a lot of fun. A long journey trying to publish it. Never got published. But I managed to like cut many stories out of it and publish those in magazines. And some of them won prizes and everything. And that led to the screenplay writing.
Oh, okay. So you still had your agent. She shopped this novel around. It just never sold.
She retired then.
Oh, okay.
So I
Start
was
all over.
start all over. So I tried another novel. I wasn't as excited. Meanwhile, I was working, I was teaching, a lot. I mean, life goes on. What the turning point with that one was that I wrote it as a screenplay. And that came as a challenge from my son. He's in LA and he's a director and editor, film editor. And he gave me a challenge one day and he said, there's this contest, screenwriting contest. Why don't you write a screenplay based on Darktown. So I saw it had it was in 30 days, exactly 1 month. And it was this challenge. I thought, okay, I know nothing about screenwriting. The form scared me, the format, just looking at
Yeah.
page. I thought, I can't handle this. I don't even know how to do this. And I had to go, like I would write something and then look it up on Google, how do you do this? How do you end a scene? How do you put a character in a thing? How do you do? I had to go step by step by step, but it was an adventure. It was
Hmm.
like I had so much fun doing it. I finally finished it and sent it in. I did not win, but I fell in love with screenwriting. So it was a big thing for me. And later I revised it a lot. I did things and that's the one that placed in these different competitions.
Oh, oh,
It was,
that's so interesting because, reading your bio, I was like, wow, Ruth's got a lot of, screenplay background. So I was almost thinking maybe you had started in screenplays, but really you'd started in novels and then your son kind of just gave you this challenge. And I agree, the screenplay formatting is intimidating, like interior shot, exterior shot. Like I don't think in like camera shots.
right.
So there's a software you can use, I think, to help you format. I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Well, you have to. You have to in the end. If you want to submit any screenplays to any competitions, you have to use their format, which is now Final Draft,
Final
basically.
Draft. That's what it's
Yeah.
called. Hmm.
So you write with that and it shapes it, but it still doesn't mean that you know where to put what. I've taught screenwriting now to, in different workshops, and you can always tell fiction writers because we always say too much. And screenwriting is truthfully, it's more like poetry than fiction
Mm,
because it's the image, the heart of the piece. And you have to strip away everything, everything. You cannot say he was thinking of Paris, for example. It's got to all be there.
yeah.
And it's really a powerful way it changed the way I write. I think
Yeah, I would imagine so. I was going to ask you if it almost like changed the way you think about story because it does
yeah,
seem like you have to really zero in on, what is it I'm actually doing and what's the story and how can I show, like you said, just how can I show it
yes.
in images and dialogue, but you don't have all those other tools that a novelist has.
No, and novelists tend to, when they start writing screenplays the way I did, you end up giving so many lines of description, because you want to, but you can't. You have to
Hmm.
strip away most of that. And you think that it's about a minute a page of screen time. So maximum 120, although lately movies are getting so long, too long.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to really limit what you write. You cut and cut and cut till you're really down to the heart, the heart, the pulsing heart of the story. One of the things I think is great for a writer to do, any writer, is when you're stuck, when you've reached a block or an impasse in your work, to try and shift genre.
mm,
If you're, try and turn it into a poem, try and turn it into an essay, from screenplay to a short story, for whatever it is, it makes you, it shifts the perspective of the story and you start seeing it in a different way.
yeah.
It also makes your writing more concrete, I think, because a screenplay, it has to take place somewhere. You can't just have talking heads. They have to be somewhere, in a place, in a setting.
Well, that's so interesting. So, yeah, so then you wrote this screenplay based on the novel that didn't sell, and
Yeah.
that screenplay ended up winning some awards. And were you then sort of thinking, "Oh, maybe I'll start trying to write some more screenplays," or how did you go from there?
Well, we have a director and a producer attached to it, but no, we can't
Ah,
get enough funding, unfortunately. So it's sort of at a standstill. And this is kind of Hollywood.
mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not holding my breath. It's there. With I wrote a couple other ones, but with Zig Zag Girl, once I finished the novel, I thought, and because it had one cinematic book and all these things, I thought this is really, it should be a movie or it should be a limited series. It has that kind of potential, and you'll see when you read it. But so I wrote a pilot episode for that, and that's the one that won at the Crime and Horror Film Festival. So I have that, but right now I would love for that to happen for Zig Zag Girl, but meanwhile I'm in a right now I'm busy writing Zig Zag Girl adjacent kind of essays, to
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so I want to talk about Zig Zag Girl because I know it was a bumpy road to get Zig Zag Girl out into the world. Although it is interesting that you're like, I can write the book and I can write the screenplay and then I can, serve
yeah.
it up to different worlds. But yeah, I guess I know that you have a background in magic, which I am assuming informed this book. So do you want to tell us your background in magic and then kind of the history of how you wrote Zig Zag Girl?
So years ago in another life, I used to read tarot cards for a living, I worked with a partner. We did charts and tarot and
Oh,
palm.
cool.
That's the closest to magic I had come. What I was working on a new novel. And this one was had a character. It was about a troupe of actors, and it was set in Israel in the 70s. And I had two timelines, dual timelines. One was the troupe of actors filming a movie about the Maccabees or something like a historical era. And then the other timeline was that historical era. But things from the past kept moving into the present. And I noticed that a character kept coming on into the set of this movie that was being filmed. Mysterious character. I don't know why he appeared, how he appeared. I swear to you, this is how it was. I don't know who he was. He just kept appearing. And finally, I started calling him the magician because I thought, I don't know who you are, but next time I'm going to follow you. And I did it on the page. And I write by hand first.
Oh, okay.
So I followed him. I wrote, and I found he led me to a theater in Jerusalem, a pink theater that was called the Theater of Love. And I saw around the theater, there were all these mimes and magicians and people doing magic tricks. So, where did this come from? It has nothing to do with the book I'm writing, but I lost interest in that book and I wanted to stay with the magician. So I did a search, a Google search, and I thought, magician, Israel, 70s. And I came up with Uri Geller, who I didn't know anything about then. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
Mm-mm.
he was apparently this legendary figure in the 70s who was known for bending spoons.
Okay.
Do it in person. He was also very handsome. He became a sensation. He came to New York. He lived in America, in England, all these things, bending spoons. But then I thought, this is so interesting to me. I couldn't stop reading about him and reading about magic and the way the universe sometimes, conspires like to help you when you're
Hmm.
really looking for something. I happened to be looking through this local journal and I saw there's a professor at the university near me who teaches a course on magic. We ended up meeting for coffee. We talked for 3 hours and he became my mentor and friend, still my friend, and my teacher in many ways. And he introduced me to the world of magic. And I met magicians and started studying with them. He also held yearly conferences for magicians. And I was so lucky to get invited into the inner circle with some of the world
Yeah.
where, magicians only workshops. And I'd be there. They called me the human. I was the human in the room because I was like, they test things on me. Does it work?
Did you have to like swear that you weren't going to reveal their secrets?
I didn't even have to swear. There was no way I would do that. No
Yeah.
way. I couldn't. They were so generous with me and so patient and I love them. I love the way they think. I love magic as an art. When you see great magic and great magicians, that was this after screenwriting, this was the thing that taught me the most about writing because now writing Zig Zag Girl, because that's what became the novel
Hmm.
out of this. I realized I could kind of plan it like a magic illusion, you know.
Oh, I love
I,
that.
so that,
Say more about that.
okay, what I learned so much about plotting and structure because I learned so many lessons from them, Eva. But one of the great things is this. Most magicians start at the end. They start with the end, the effect they want to have on the audience, the experience that they want the audience to have, the audience, the spectator.
Hmm.
So they're thinking, okay, how do I get the audience member to feel this and work backwards? The great thing with magic is this is one of the reasons I love it so much. To me, it's one of the most human arts because it's saying what they really want to do is create a moment of wonder in the world. And our world needs moments of wonder. They want to make you doubt reality, like perch you on, on the edge of no way and way. Wow. Make you doubt your senses for a minute. So it's not just that they transform the world, they transform in great magic. You, the spectator, you have an emotional experience that transforms you too. I started thinking of the novel in that way. I had the emotional experience because it can't just be intellectual. I think that this is one of the issues I have with some mysteries. They think it's just about who done it.
Mm.
It is about that. But I think if there's not the emotional experience, it's not just who done it, it's who cares. If
Hmm.
it's about, if I don't care about the people, then okay, it was a puzzle that I either solved or didn't solve. But if I'm gripped by the people in the story or by the persona of the magician or by what he's trying to do or she's trying to do, I'm in it with you. It becomes, something together. And this is what I tried to do in Zig Zag Girl, what I aimed for anyway, to create a puzzle for the reader, but also an emotional experience.
Yeah. A moment of wonder and
Yeah.
yeah, I like that idea too that like the author is the magician and the story it's like sleight of hand. I mean, we're all going into the novel knowing this is a story. Like we're going to the magician. We know that there's some tricks, but you're sort of forgetting about that for a moment and just letting yourself have an experience and letting yourself be immersed in it. And I think that's such a cool way to think about it.
That's exactly it. What you just said. That's exactly it. It's the goal isn't just to be trying to figure out how they did it. Although, of course, that's part of it. But there, hopefully, at one point, you stop wondering about that and just let yourself go with it.
Yeah. Did you end up doing any magic performances or trying out some of your own
This is
illusions?
this is like a little sore point that there is a couple of the magicians really want me to learn to perform magic, and and I think they're absolutely right in this. They're telling me go when you go give a reading or do a
Oh, how cool would that be? Yeah.
come on, and they made one wonderful magician, Jeff McBride, actually like made a trick for me to do.
Hmm.
But for some reason, performing magic in person with, in live is a tough one for me. I can create the illusions on the page. So I'm still kind of thinking about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
Maybe you
have
could bring in a magician for some of your book
that's
events.
what I thought. Wouldn't that be great? It would be such a cool thing because it would, especially if it's a female magician, because
Yeah, yeah.
really the heart of it was also trying to figure out when my magic, I wanted to have a female, well, it's like a sisterhood of female magicians and sort of turn the magic world inside out, shift the perspective to the woman
Hmm.
inside, which is kind of what I wrote about for Andrea Bartz's newsletter about how being sawed in half taught me to write a thriller because it was when I was in the box, looking up, that I realized the magician smiling down at me has no idea what I'm feeling down here. He has no idea what it means to be in the box and looking up and knowing he's going to shut that box in a moment and he's going to saw me in half. And that's when the part of the story came in my mind.
Oh, cool. Well, and I like the idea of, I think there's such the image we have in our mind of a magician is the male magician with the female assistant. And like you said, the female is getting sawed in half. And I love the idea of a female magician. Okay, yes, definitely gonna have to read your book. I'm sad I haven't already, but I'm gonna get to it. But
Good.
then I know. I know that there was quite a journey for you in getting Zig Zag Girl, the novel, published. So do we want to talk about that after you had finished writing it? And then at that point, did you have a new agent after your other agent had retired, or how does that work?
Yes, I did have a second agent,
Okay.
but it was a kind of a long, slow road. I mean, when it came to the Zigzag Girl, she did send it out, but what happened is we did send it to a publishing company that loved it, made an offer, sent me a contract, but she didn't think I should go with them. And her advice to me was just put it back on the shelf.
Hmm.
And I thought, I mean, we argued about it, but I realized inside, no, this is not right. It's not, okay, we did get some passes on the book,
Normal.
which is normal. But and we had an offer that she didn't want to accept.
Was it like with a smaller press or a smaller offer, or why? What was her reasoning?
I don't want to go too much in detail, but it felt like it wasn't a good I thought it was actually a good offer. It really
Hmm.
not one of the big five, but
Yeah.
it was a decent offer and it was a contract and they wanted it and they really were excited about it. But it was when I said, "You're really seriously, telling me to put it back on the shelf?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, move on to something else." No, I can't do that. I can't do that. First, the book has won awards. It's
Right.
and I said that, and she said, "Well, those awards, they're not like the big awards. It's you know." I just thought this, no,
It didn't
all
sit right with you.
it didn't sit right with me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. We parted ways amicably, but we parted ways. I had my book back, and I took a few weeks to kind of, okay, here I am again.
Yeah,
I
well, what a like roller coaster. You get an offer and then end up having to part ways with your agent. That's like an up and down swing for sure.
I couldn't think clearly at that
Yeah.
moment because after I realized, well, I could have just gone back to she turned down the offer. And I could have gone to them and said, wait a minute, look, I'm now on my own and I could still do it. But I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just
Yeah.
sort of trying to figure out what to do at this point. And it took a few weeks of just kind of being depressed and lost and not sure what to do. I started doing what I do, I guess. I went back online searching, looking for something. And who could I send it to myself with no agent? I didn't even think about getting an agent at the moment. I just thought, I'm not going to let this book die. I want this book to come out.
Yeah.
And I found Black Spring Press, and they had started a crime series recently, and they had a competition for a crime book. I missed the deadline. It was like only a month earlier. But I thought, let me write a letter to them. Let me just see what it is. And I ended up with, and one of the reasons I was drawn to them was because Luca Vesti, who is a crime writer, British crime writer, is the curator and editor of this crime series. During the pandemic, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and one of the ones I found was, I think it was called Two Crime Writers and a Microphone, something like one of the crime writers was Luca Vesti. And I thought I was charmed by him. He was funny, down to earth. And when I saw Luca Vesti, I thought it's a sign. I always go with signs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote to him. He accepted the book. That was the story of it. So now it's out as part of the Black Spring Press crime series. But I think they're going to carry on and do more books now. And it's based in the UK, but with my book, they started being distributed in the US by Simon and Schuster.
Because Black Spring Press is based in the UK, that's why your book came out in the UK
Yes.
first. Because it came out in the UK in the fall, is that right? This
Yes.
past fall?
Late October, the end of October.
Okay. But then because it's distributed through Simon and Schuster, then it came out here in the US in March.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. And you were able to submit to them without an agent, and that whole process was pretty smooth.
Yeah, it took a while though. It did take long. It took at least a year and a half from when they accepted it to it actually coming out. I couldn't really do publicity much or anything because they kept changing the publication date on it. But
Mm-hmm.
in the end, it came out, and I think they made a really beautiful book. It is,
Yeah.
everyone who sees it, says it's, I mean, this is
I love the cover. I absolutely
the
love the
cover.
cover.
And
Yeah.
it's a zigzag girl.
Well,
She,
tell us, what is a zigzag girl?
so a zigzag girl is a magic illusion. It's in the family of sawing a woman in half. But this one, the woman is sawed in thirds, and instead of being in a box horizontally, she's vertical. I've also been in this one. I've been sawed in thirds, but here the artist shifted the pieces, so her head is on the bottom, her
Oh, I
on
see.
top.
Yep.
If you look close, it fits the story so well. And the Zigzag Girl is the only box illusion. It's been called the perfect illusion. She's standing upright. She's not like in a coffin sort of box. She's got her face. You see her face. You see her hand. You see her foot. You see parts of her. She's upright, face to face with the magician. There's something about it. And it's like it's an elastic. You'd have to see it to know what I'm saying, but it's sort of an elastic illusion. The woman's body, the magician, when he saws her, her belly, her whole belly, like comes
Well,
out
I
the way.
can picture it. I feel like I've
Yeah.
seen it like in a movie or something where she's got her hand out with like a little handkerchief
Yes.
twirling, and then
Yes.
like he shifts the middle piece
Yes.
of the box
Yes.
over, and
She's
she's
out.
still twirling her handkerchief, and her feet
Yes.
and her head are still there. Yeah, I
That's
could
it.
totally picture it. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I didn't know that's what the Zigzag Girl illusion was, but now, yeah, that's perfect.
And it fits with the story because
Yeah.
just the idea of a zigzag girl, just I love the title. That never changed. I had the title before I had the story. It's almost like her identity shifts too.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, one thing I want to ask you, because just some of the things you've said along the way have made me think that you are very like intuitive and also kind of like following the universe and the creative signs. I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit about your creative process?
It is very intuitive, but I'm also very disciplined. All these years of writing and raising three kids and working full time, always. Made me very disciplined in my writing. But I see it as like a practice, like yoga or something. You get better. Yeah, you really do. But that's not, it's a practice. I write every day and I write by hand first. And I love to do it because it's so physical. I write in big sketchbooks
Mm,
with black pen and I watch it coming. And the rhythm is the way I fill these sketchbooks, these big sketchbooks. And that's how I write. And then I keep it there as long as I can because while it's there, it's mine, sort of, it's secret. Still, I could change things I cross out. It's while no one can read it but me.
yeah.
It's, it's as long as I can until it's like threatening to burst out. I have to see it because I can't really judge it yet. The rhythm is there, the magic of it is there, but I have to type it. That's the only way I can really judge it. And that becomes like a second, third draft as I'm typing it up, and I can have a cooler eye on it.
hmm
When I'm in this stage, it's still anything is possible. I'm kind of fearless there, and I love that. So I don't really plan. It just comes as it goes. But once I'm starting on this part, then I can start judging.
I think that is really, it's both interesting and I think it's probably good for listeners to hear too, because, you had described earlier, like, oh, this character just shows up on the page and then I follow this character and then I see this setting and it sounds very like almost like the muse is visiting you. But you can't just wait for the muse to show up. You also are very disciplined and you're also sitting down to write every day. And I feel like sitting down to write every day, getting into that rhythm, getting into that practice is the way you get the muse to arrive, and the way you have these sort of magical moments of inspiration.
And
Yeah.
they come every day. It's not
Yeah.
like every day is like that. Like this morning, I was writing and it was just one frustration after another. Yeah, it's a practice. The more you do it, the better you get. I know I have many writer friends who do not write every day. And even when I was teaching full time, I would sometimes write 15 minutes just to make sure I was sort of sticking to it. But it took much, much longer to write. But I have friends who don't do it every day, who write on weekends, who write just in bursts and then stop for a month. So I think the creative process is different for everybody. This happens to be mind that has been honed through years
Yeah.
of kind of realizing what works for me.
Yeah.
I never, presume to say to anybody else, this is how you should do it. But for me, it has worked. And something that helps is keeping a journal. I've
Mm,
always suggested to my students, my creative writing students, to find some way to write about what happens to you because to think about it, to examine your life a little, to explore your life, to think about moments that you've experienced because it all passes so quickly. And it's a way of just stopping time for a little. It's kind of like photographs, but with words.
mm.
When I taught on the ship, when I was on semester at sea, I
Yeah. Yeah.
3 voyages. And I would teach travel writing. And so I would tell, like one of the assignments I gave to the students, we would be going to ports all over the world. And I'd say, okay, go to a outdoor market, take a photograph with words, a paragraph, and come back, and then we'd share them. And everybody would read us their photo. We call them the
Yeah. I like that. That's a nice little assignment. So I also kept a journal for probably starting at like age 8 and then for years and years and years. But I was so type A about my journal where I was like, I need to record everything that happened. And like, I would like even write down, here's what I wore today. Here's like here are my top 5 best friends for today. This was like in middle school, you know.
Yeah.
But and then as I got older, I did it as like just I felt like an obligation, like I had to keep t taking these like meticulous notes of my day. And then finally I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. Why am I doing this? And I finally stopped when I was like 30. Um, but I like this idea of a journal where it's not necessarily here's what I did today. It's just like let me take one picture from today with my mind and capture it with words. Like that's a cool thing to
And
do.
you don't have to be traveling to do that.
Yeah.
That could be your daily life. One
Yeah,
moment.
exactly. Just one moment from each day. I love that. I might try to give
Do it.
myself that assignment.
I still do it. I still do it. I
Although
try.
I will say, you know what? I say that I stopped doing the journal, but now I actually do a journal of things, either funny things my kids say or do, or like poignant things that they've said or done that I want to make sure I remember. Because it is true. So many of those things, if you don't, at least for me, if I don't write them down, I forget that they ever happened.
Do you ever write by hand or do you always type it
You
out?
know,
Out?
I now do almost everything typing. I find when I write by hand, my hand starts cramping up like right away. I probably need to like do what's that like thing that you use to squeeze for
Those
like,
those, yeah.
yeah, to like strengthen my fingers. Because I have had people say it's kind of you're almost using a different part of your brain when you write by hand. So I know that Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way recommends to do the morning pages by hand. So.
I know that, that at the university, many students don't even know how to write by hand anyway. They don't know how to do cursive.
Well,
It's
they don't
not,
know how to do cursive, which helps you write faster.
yes, it's
So,
so much faster when I write by hand than when I type, unfortunately. I wish I
yeah.
could type more because it would save more time, but I'm not as fast.
But you know, and I totally agree with you that like everybody has their own way of doing things. But I think one of the things I hope to do in this podcast for people who are first starting out is like give people different options to try and different ideas of like try this and maybe this will work for you or try this other thing. And I think the interesting thing about yours is your creative process is that they often say the first draft is you telling yourself the story and then the second or third draft is you telling it to the readers. So yours is like set up kind of perfectly for that, right? The by hand is you telling yourself the story and then when you have to type it you can start thinking about the readers and how they're going to come to the story. I say that, but I'm like, I would never do that because I just have to type. I just have to type. But
I totally understand. And if I hadn't started with handwriting, I probably would, and I even tried one of the novels I tried in the middle of between Darktown and I wrote a YA fantasy. And I thought, okay, this one, I'm going to do it, type it from the beginning. I managed several chapters and I realized I had no rhythm. I
Mm,
lost the I couldn't tell what was working and what wasn't. I couldn't tell if a sentence was too long. Because there's a rhythm, when you're
yeah.
writing, you hit a groove, and I lost my groove. I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
find it, and so it was very stiff, and it didn't fit right. But what does happen is when I'm doing that second, third draft, when I'm typing up there, I can now create. When it's at the once I have something behind me, I can do it. I can do that. It's not like that first raw, rough
Yeah. Yeah,
YA.
I mean, I think that makes sense is that everybody kind of has their own way that they get into the rhythm of the story. Like I've heard some people say they'll like dictate, to their phone, like, which I've tried to do. Sometimes I'll get an idea and I will try to dictate to my phone, but it just doesn't come out the way that I would write it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is everybody has their own way, but you have to figure out what works for you best by trying different things.
Totally. I think that's the way. Like I read this thing, a woman wrote her novel on her phone.
Yeah,
I still don't get. I could
I
never
cannot.
million years I couldn't do that. But I'm amazed that someone can do that.
Yeah. But I've heard that especially like people with young kids, they're like, "Oh, if I have a minute, I just get out my phone,
So,
type
yep.
a few notes into my phone." So I mean, yeah, you do what works
You exactly. And whatever works
is the right way.
is the right way.
Yeah.
Exactly it. Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is something you've been doing this for a while? What's something that surprised you on your writing or publishing journey? And it can be a good surprise or maybe a not so good surprise or one of each.
Well, probably the biggest surprise was that after my agent told me to shelve the book, that because I did, even though I sent it out and I didn't send anywhere else. I just sent to Black Spring. I still had doubts then because I thought, well, and that this book that I was told to shelve is now nominated for the best standalone book of the year.
Yeah.
So that hit me like a shock because I thought, in a way, it's like, so this should give people hope too, because maybe the industry says no, or that a lot of the gatekeepers say no. That doesn't necessarily mean that the work is bad or wrong. Maybe it means it just hasn't found its home yet.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, yes, we do need to revise. We do need to work on things, but I'm a living proof of sticking to it. I don't give up. And I have had like there's a story of mine, Swamp Girl, that I must have submitted I countless times through the years. I loved this story with a passion. It was in my bones. And rejection after rejection after rejection. And then I lost, like, forgot about it for some years. And then I I forget exactly when. One day I just happened to see it on my computer, and I thought, oh my God, I love this story.
Yeah.
Somebody's gotta love it too. And I submitted it and it started winning prizes. It just was like it won the Launchpad's best prose of the year.
Wow.
Yes. It won Nimrod's Catherine Ann Porter thing. It just was starting to win prizes. And it was like a story 20 years old. So maybe that's the surprise. I don't know, though. I'm not sure. I don't want to encourage people to say, well, keep on, keep on, keep on, because like with Darktown, I finally hit a place with the novel. Anyway, for now, I put it to rest. It's on the side. Maybe it'll come back one day. Maybe it'll come as the screenplay, as a movie, whatever it is. But there comes a point you have to stop with some things. But on the other hand, if you believe in it enough,
Yeah.
give it time, maybe put it away and then look at it again or have others look at it and see. But
Yeah, I mean, I've had the experience in both directions of coming back to something after a long time away. And sometimes you come back to it and you're like, "Oh, now I see this isn't as good as I thought it was, or it really has some problems that I was blind to before. But then I've also had the experience of coming back to something and being like, wow, this is still really good. Like maybe I need to send it out more, give it another try. Or, I think one of the things you had maybe said you could talk about was like submitting to contests or, trying a different route than you had tried before.
Sometimes re taking it out, looking at it, and be, like you said, be tough on it. Like, look at it.
Hmm.
Well, maybe this, I th what I thought was a great opening or a twist or something really wasn't that great. And go back through it with a cool eye,
Yeah.
as if you're a stranger reading it. Yeah, you have to have faith in yourself, but at the same time, it's you have to learn to look at your work with that to be able to revise and edit and not feel you're destroying it, just to make it better. I mean, some my friends call me the queen of revision because I won't give up on a piece. I'll go back and change until I really think, okay, I've done what I can do. There's no more. And sometimes too much revision can ruin it.
Yeah.
All of these things, there are fine lines.
All of these things are such a balance, a balance between don't give up and know when it's time to put something away,
Yeah.
a balance between revise but don't revise it to death. Yeah, do you think, so you don't have an agent now, do you think you might at some point in the future look for another agent?
Yes, with this new book, when
Okay.
I finish this one, I will do that. I will because I think it is easier in the long run. If you can get the right one, someone who believes in your work and I mean, now it's such a crowded atmosphere.
Hmm.
Go on Substack and you go on, I mean, you're in the heart of it. You see,
Yeah, yeah, I do. And, I think I just restacked something on Substack recently of like, I think it was from an agent saying, like, here's what I really want querying authors to know. And like, it was like, it's not your imagination. It really is hard right now. It really is very, very tough. And, agents are getting just so many submissions. And then they're having to deal with all these AI submissions. So, like, that's just like clogging up their inbox. And people who are like, "Oh, I sent out 20 queries and I didn't get anything." I'm like, "Oh, you just need to keep going. Like it might take a lot more than 20 queries." So,
do you have an agent?
I do. Yeah, I have an agent. And it took me 90 queries to get her. So,
Wow. Wow. And
yeah.
what kept you, what kept you from giving up and how did you manage that in the end?
So first of all, she's my second agent, but with querying that novel, first of all, when I first started querying, it was during the pandemic. So I wasn't getting a lot of responses, but I didn't know if it was, I think it was like early days of the pandemic. So I didn't know how much that was affecting things. But I actually did a consult with Manuscript Academy where I met with an agent who had read I think my query and my first 10 pages. And she gave me some suggestions. And then as soon as I made the revisions she recommended, I started getting a lot more requests. And, I just try to like celebrate, like when you get a request, you just have to celebrate, like, hey, okay, this
Yeah.
might not be a yes, but at least somebody wants to read my whole manuscript. So I think I ended up getting 9 or 10 full requests and just the one agent offer, but it turned out she's amazing. So one was all I needed. Actually, the way that I found her was this was back when they were doing those Twitter pitch contests.
Oh,
And so
yeah,
I
yeah.
had done my little Twitter pitch and she had liked my pitch. And I would not have even known to query her because at the time she was still an assistant to a bigger literary agent, but she was starting to build her own list. And so she just wasn't on my radar. But then I read her like Manuscript Academy page and I was like, or Manuscript wish list, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I think she could be good. So I want to say I was like her second client that she signed. So,
And
but that's the other thing is it's all these little, sometimes like random little coincidences, or like you finding your agent through somebody from a
yeah,
writer's colony. Yeah. Well, I end every episode with a tip for the road for our listeners, and it can be a tip about writing or surviving rejection or, advice you might want to give to all the writers out there listening who are on their own long journey to publishing. So, what tip would you like to impart to us?
all right. So many years ago, when I was a grad student, I took a creative writing class with he was a National Book Award winner. And at the end of the semester, I went at a party. Well, we were off in a corner, and I asked him something I would never dare to ask anyone today, but I was young and like, and I said to him, well, okay, do I have talent? And he was quiet for a minute. And I thought, oh my God, I was dying there.
Yeah.
And then he said, you're asking the wrong question, Ruth. A lot of people have talent, but do you have what it takes? Do you have persistence, perseverance? Can you get a thick skin to handle rejections? Can you keep working even as you get beaten down? Can you hang in there through obstacles, through life, through everything? That's the question to ask. And I remember going back to my room so depressed and oh my God, what horrible. I wish I'd never asked him. And now I look back and I think, yeah, that is the truth. He was so wise and he was so right because along the way, I've seen so many writers and talented writers just sort of fall by the wayside. But I do have what it takes. I think almost everyone who goes into writing has a certain amount of talent. We all have something there, but can we stick to it through everything? And if you can, then there's a good chance your time will come too. And
Yeah.
so what I would advise, I would add a little more positively than I did.
Yeah.
I would say start with believing in yourself. Start with that. And then with persistence and keep on learning, staying open, to getting better, to practicing your craft, to thinking of the road,
Yeah.
enjoy the road while you're on it. That it's not always just the destination. Enjoy the
Yeah.
road. It's your life. And with a little bit of magic, I think it will happen.
And yeah, it's such a like insecure young person question, like, do I have talent? But like, I feel like talent is one of those things where people are like, oh, either you have it or you don't. But like he said, that's not the important thing. It's not about that. And like the perseverance and the learning and the practicing is something you can control, you
Yeah.
know? It's not a like, do I have it or not? It's do I want to do it? Is,
Enough.
do I want
Do
to do it enough? Yeah.
you want it enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one final question, and I know that the listeners won't be able to see this, but what are your earrings? Because I keep seeing them dangle, and I want to know, they look like mermaids from here.
They're hamsas. A friend brought me these. I collect hamsas. It's one of the few like things I collect. But I have a hamsa wall in my house.
Okay, I
So when
feel
you,
dumb, but what is a
all right,
hamsa?
it's a hand. Hamsa stands for five, the chamesh in Hebrew and Arabic. Chimsa, chamesh. And it's a hand. When it's a hand like this, it brings good luck. It wards off bad luck. It wards off evil. So I feel like it's this friend brought these handmade from Croatia for
Oh, they're
me.
really, really
And I
pretty.
just think they're so pretty. And when I wear them, I feel like it's like,
You're
yeah,
like, they're working.
they're working, So I often wear them for readings or for
Yeah.
special things like talking with you.
Yeah.
They just, yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I asked. Okay.
Yes, I'm glad you asked too.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy that you got Zig Zag out on both sides of the ocean, and I will definitely have to read it. It sounds like so much fun, and I'm so glad we got to chat and hear about your journey. Thanks for listening to The Long Road to Publishing. Many of the books we discuss on the podcast can be found at my bookshop shop, the link for which is in the show notes. My guests' books and many of the resources we discuss on the show can also be found in the show notes. You can find me online on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack with the handle Eva Langston. Even better, subscribe to my free newsletter for writers at evalangston.substack.com and feel free to send me an email. The podcast address is longroad.pub@gmail.com. The Long Road to Publishing is produced and edited by me, Eva Langston, and the intro-outro music comes from the artist's sound roll on Upbeat. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and I'll be back soon with more publishing stories and more tips for the road.